Welcome in, everyone, to Cash That Ticket podcast here on the Straight Outta Vegas AM feed. Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. Here to get into some more NBA playoffs action happening on the Thursday night card. Maybe touch on the MLB. Of course, it is Thursday, getaway day and travel day. So we do have early starts in the MLB. We'll get you guys a coupon code over pregame.com and, of course, give you best bets for the Thursday card as well. But joining me, coming off of a 1-0 best bet winner for Uncle Dave, and not mine, not happy about it. Got hooked, but it's okay. We'll bounce back here tonight. But we did go 1-1, thanks to the Mets going first five under, and they do snap their 12-game losing streak. But it's Uncle Diamond Dave Essler. Uncle Dave, how's it going for you on this Thursday, sir?
Wonderful. Weather's nice here in Florida, golf weather. I got the NFL draft tonight, off of a best bet winner here, off of a best bet winner for my clients. So having said that, I should probably take the rest of the day off and not tempt fate, but here we are.
Yeah, maybe just take the rest of the day off, put your feet up on the porch there, crack a cold one, and just enjoy the beautiful weather maybe. Because, yeah, you mentioned NFL draft tonight happening for the 2026 year. Should be exciting. I try to find something in an NFL draft for you guys. I didn't want to force anything. I even asked Uncle Dave if he had anything. He said, I don't have anything. But the fact of the matter is that the books have made it just so tough to, number one, find value, I should say, or find those bets, because many, many years ago, it was a lot, I don't want to say easier, but there was, I guess, a bigger menu, and maybe the books weren't catching up to some of the things that were coming up. But it feels like now that the books are getting the information first before, the general public, or even the sharp bettors, quote unquote, that make their money off of the drafts are getting that information and able to get down on those bets there. But nonetheless, it's the NFL. People will be tuned in to watch it. We'll watch Roger Goodell come out and give the opening remarks, and people will boo him, and that's always the fun part of the draft there as well. But for those of you looking for NFL draft prop bets, probably not. You're not going to find it here. I'll say that much here. But we will be focusing on the NBA and the NFL here tonight. Quickly, last night as we did.
I just want to throw in there that
go ahead.
Draft bets are kind of like regular bets. Day of, you're not going to find value, right? I mean,
No.
True draft junkies that make money at this now, that is obviously a lot harder than it used to be, because most books are very low limit, so you need to have a lot of books.
Yeah.
But they made wagers a month ago, right? I mean, what is now, minus 500, you might have been able to get plus money on a month ago, because the information is so readily available. And, if you get one or two top sort of draft market movers to, throw $100 across the board on a bunch of guys, they're going to move that line massively. So, I think any bets I would make today would just be fun bets. I don't see any other way to approach it on the day of the game here, really. Okay, we know Mendoza is going to go first. Okay, right? I think that the third pick is kind of up in the air for me, because a lot of talk about New Orleans trading up with Arizona, and Arizona trading down a few spots to take a left tackle. And the thing is, people go, well, I don't want to, could be traded. You know what? They're trading up to take the same guy you would have took if you stayed there.
Right.
So the order is probably not going to change. Mendoza's going to go first, Bailey's going to go second, and then after that, it's either going to be Love or Reese. I think it's going to be Reese, because I think that New Orleans will trade up with Arizona and take him, but I could be wrong. But again, so yeah, I think you could get those three, make a couple dollars, or call it a night real quick, if you did something like that. And I'm not against that. And that is the lowest or the best odds. The top top pick was plus 170. I think anything below that with, throwing Love or Reese or whatever around, is plus 200 or whatever. But I think the top option at plus 170 is actually probably the right option.
Yeah, I mean, there's not the consensus, but the conversation right now is what's going to happen at number 3, right? Because for Arizona, they restructured James Conner's contract. They signed Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons, and now there's the possibility that Jeremiah Love goes to Arizona, or is it that maybe another team, like you mentioned, maybe the Saints that want to come up and get him at the 3 spot or for a different position, right? So I think
Right.
that's where I think the draft really does start, especially very early on at that number 3 spot and
Yeah,
see
I
what
mean, and
happens.
and the Saints are known to trade up. I mean, I read
Yeah.
something where they've traded up. They've traded up 25 times they've traded the first pick 25 times in 17 years, and every one of them was to move up. So,
Yeah.
it's not like there's not a precedent there, but I think we probably see that happen, uh, which is why I kind of like Reese to go third. But if I could find a prop bet that would be 4 Ohio State players taken in the first 12 picks, I'd make that bet too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big menu right now over at DraftKings, of course. I don't see one, at least for by school. I mean, they always have the by position or how many total, cornerbacks taken in the first round, total offensive linemen, total offensive players, things like that. They have player over unders as well. There, I know they had I was looking earlier that they had those markets of exact picks of where players end up. So definitely dig around, shop around, always get the best number, especially when we're talking about the draft there. So as much as I just said that we won't have any NFL draft prop bet cover, there you go. You got about a couple minutes there on the NFL draft here tonight. Quickly, Uncle Dave, last night, as I mentioned, best bets do end up going 1-1. You did have the first 5 under in the Mets and the Twins game. The Mets do stop their 12-game losing streak, so get that monkey off of their back, but chalk one up for you. I did have Cade's PRA to go or have 44.5, but 45 plus is now what the one-way market is now on DraftKings. But he ends up with 27.6 rebounds and 11 assists last night. Ends up with 44. So do get hooked on that, but hopefully do bounce back here tonight. Completely wrong about the Magic game last night. Give credit to the Detroit Pistons. They really played great defense last night. They made their adjustments in game 2. They not only win the game, but also cover the number and holding a NBA team in 2026 to 83 points, even if it is the playoffs. I think that is something to really pat yourself on the back about defensively in this modern age of the NBA. But Gabe stays under. Again, as I mentioned, Magic do cover the number as they head to Orlando for games 3 and 4. The second game of the night was Thunder and the Suns. Thunder get the 120-107 of victory, but the Suns do cover the 17 and a half number last night. The game does go over the total 120-107, and as that series heads back to Phoenix as the Suns are down 2-0 in that. A lot of conversation in the post game conference about refs being called out, one in particular James Williams by Devin Booker and Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks there. I'm not going to dive too much into that. You can go back and watch that, but just wanted to recap the betable action from last night in the association. Let's stay in the association, Uncle Dave. Let's start here with the games here tonight. We do have 3 games on the schedule for the NBA playoffs, and we'll start here with the New York Knicks. They are in Atlanta to take on the Hawks. Hawks are catching 1.5 points here at home with a total of 216 and a half. Nothing substantial as far as injury news does go, of course, in this game. I'll just double check here. The only, I guess, piece, if you want, is Jock Lindell, I guess, the backup center for the Atlanta Hawks is out tonight. Nothing for the New York Knicks. Have a very clean injury report, but CJ McCollum was the man in game 2 there, Uncle Dave, for the Atlanta Hawks. Guides the Hawks to the victory in Madison Square Garden to even up the series as they now head back to Atlanta here, Uncle Dave. But what are your thoughts on this matchup here tonight between the Knicks and the Hawks?
Yeah, I mean, when I first looked at it, I thought I would like Atlanta at home, and I kind of do, mainly because I look back at the last couple of times the Knicks were short favorites like that, and they didn't do well. And they were short favorites to your Rockets and lost badly not too long back. They were short favorites to the Clippers not too long back and lost. So I kind of like Atlanta. And like I said off air, there were all three home underdogs tonight, right? And that's the thing for me. I love home underdogs, but they won't all cover, and I have a hard time picking which one. So I think what I like in this game a little bit more is the total. I mean, 216, 216 and a half. I mean, that's a low total even almost for a Knicks game, right? I mean, it's 218 and a half in both the first two games. Um, one, both of them stayed under, but in that last game, had the Knicks not gone ice cold there in the fourth quarter, it probably would have gone over, and we might not be looking at a really good number here. So 216 and a half, as I said, that's a low number even for a Knicks game. I haven't had too many lower than that, and it's by far the lowest total by 15 points that the Hawks have had all year, except for games 1 and 2 when it was 218 and a half. So I have to think that it goes over. I know that's a dicey bet to make in the NBA playoffs, but as I said, at some point in time, the market just moves too far, right? Atlanta, I believe they're the second fastest pace team in the league. They're at home. I don't think they want to just go toe to toe with Cat and Brunson. I think if they go down, they got to go down swinging, uh, and they don't swing a very great defense. So I do like this over. I have to say, it takes me a lot to get to an over in the playoffs, but I think if I had to bet on this game, that's where I'd go.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at the first two games, right? 215 in game one, 213 in game two there. If it wasn't for maybe two missed free throws from CJ at the end there, that could have been another game where it could have been to 215. And um I think they obviously the books have, this tick this number down just a little bit for that adjustment there. I'll be curious to see what that number is in the first half because I feel like they, especially in that first quarter, I've seen more. I feel like I've seen higher scoring first quarters in the playoffs thus far, Uncle Dave. And then as the game progresses and the adjustments are made, that defenses and coaches are making their adjustments as the game goes along. And the pace obviously slows down, especially in a closer game in the second half, right? Where every possession does matter. So I think first half, I would look at the first half over. I think we could see a higher scoring first half. I'm just really struggling with the side here. I'm very it makes me nervous to back the New York Knicks just because I don't have faith in Mike Brown to make the proper adjustments in a game. And this should be a series where Karl-Anthony Towns should be dominating, especially inside, because the Hawks really don't have a big man, inside as far as defense goes and post defense and rim protection, where I think Cat just has to have that mentality where he wants to get down in the block and, use his post up game or whatever it is. He just wants to go out there and shoot 3-point shots there. So, I think we can't see points in this game. I think we see it early on, and hopefully that just helps in the second half and to carry that total up and over the number there. And when it maybe, and again, gets down to it in the final minute there, that, fouls and things like that, push it over this total here. Maybe it doesn't come to that we do get to a easier over for the full game. And I don't have to rely on those fouls at the end there, but I do think that it's going to be exciting, especially in Atlanta with those fans there. And I think the Hawks can get behind them. So I think first quarter, I would go with the home team here as well. First quarter on the spread for the Hawks, and then first half over would be the look here for me in this game between the Hawks and the Knicks. Getting over to the next game on the NBA schedule, we'll go over to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have a 2-0 lead over Toronto as the series shifts to the north of the border. Another home team catching points here at home, plus 2.5 is a number for the Toronto Raptors at home here tonight. 221.5 for the total. Injury report. I am seeing that Thomas Bryant for the Cleveland Cavaliers is questionable, along with Emmanuel Quickly, who did miss game two for the Toronto Raptors as well. So keep an eye out for especially Emmanuel Quickly for the Toronto Raptors side of things here, Uncle Dave. But the Raptors catching points here at home. Can they make this a series, or does a Cleveland take a 3-0 lead?
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I think if I'm going to take one home underdog, it's probably going to be Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, they failed to cover either game. And if you look at those games individually, there's basically like one quarter in each game where Cleveland kind of just took control of the game, right? I mean, it wasn't like they completely dominated the whole time. I mean, in the last game they jumped out to a decent lead at the end of the first quarter, but Toronto played them about even after that. And in the first game, I think it was the third quarter that Cleveland just kind of boat raced them. So for 6 of the 8 quarters, Toronto's played them pretty tough. So I don't think that their heads are hanging too low. Uh, I did want to take the over, but I'm just going to pass that total. I think Toronto's the one home team, especially getting three. I mean, it's between 2.5 and three, depending on where you look. It did go to 3.5, but that got bought back fairly quickly. So my guess is, if I'm looking ahead at the market, that three is going to be the best number you'll be able to get between now and tip off. Yeah, but I like Toronto here. I mean, they, you know, as I said, Cleveland's up 2-0, and oh wow, they covered the spread twice, 8.5, 9.5. But I don't think they cover tonight. I think Toronto at home does get it done, and again, I say that only because if I look at I look at both games as a whole, not just looking at the final score. Okay, Toronto gave up a buck 26 and a buck 15. It was really all done in 2 quarters. So yeah, I think Toronto's probably the right side here. If you're asking me to bet with your money, I'm going to tell you to take the Raptors.
I would be on the Raptors here tonight as well. And typically when we see teams down 2 games to nothing going back home, you usually see them favored in the first half. I think that's something the books have finally caught up to, because there
Right.
was a point in time many, 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 many years ago where that was a very, very profitable angle until the books finally did catch up to it. But right now it's plus a half right now for the Toronto Raptors, both in the first quarter and in the first half here. So, if they're going to give themselves an opportunity to make this a series, I think they're going to have to come out strong, and I think they do that here. They do that here tonight, Uncle Dave. But also Cleveland, right? I typically don't like looking at trends or stats from the regular season, but a profitable angle from the regular season was that Cleveland was not a very good road team against the number. You take a look at it, ATS wise, when they were a road favorite this season, were the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were 9-19 against the number, right? As a road team overall, they were, I believe, 17-24 against the number. And I think it's been a minute, I should say, that the Toronto Raptors crowd has seen a playoff game at home. And I think that's, you know, home court advantage maybe is not a big thing in the NBA, but I do think that for the Raptors, they can get behind this crowd here tonight, and at least come out very, very strong in that first quarter and in the first half there. So I'll take the Raptors in the first half plus the half, or if you just want to play them on the money line. I think that will be the look here for me in this game. That's something that I will be getting down on. But again, I would not be surprised in this game if they did win this game outright and at least get it to 2 games to 1 before game 4 happens over the weekend between these two teams. You got anything else for Cavs and Raptors?
No, I'm going to move on to another game that I'm not real sure what's going to happen in.
Yeah, another team catching points here tonight at home in 1-1 series as they head to Minnesota between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves catching 2.5 points here at home with a total of 233.5. Anthony Edwards questionable tonight, but the expectation that he does play. for the Timberwolves here today. Aaron Gordon is probable, and Peyton Watson is going to be out for the Denver Nuggets side of things in this matchup. Give a lot of credit to Minnesota for the way they were able to play in game two, and not only that, close out game two and get the victory against the Denver Nuggets to even up the series. And I think this could be a series, Uncle Dave, that does go, I think, 6 games. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if it does go the full 7 games here between these two teams. But what are your thoughts on Denver and Minnesota here tonight in Minnesota?
Yeah, I like Minnesota, and we could sit here and nitpick shit all day long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do sometimes, but you know they fell down 14 points in the first quarter in game two, and maybe Denver and their fans thought, okay, game over, 2-0, let's go to Minnesota. Well, not so fast. I mean, not only did the Timberwolves win, they had the game tied back up at halftime,
Yep.
and you know, okay, well, how did that happen? Well, they actually took more shots than Minnesota than Denver. They made a much higher field goal percentage. They were better from 3 points. They out rebounded them at both ends of the court. They had more assists, more steals. I mean, they if you, they won that game a whole lot bigger. 52 points in the paint. I mean, that's a problem if you're Denver. So Minnesota won, but I think Minnesota played a much better game. I think people look at it as, well, they stole one. I don't think they did. I think they won outright. Well, they did win outright, but I mean, I think they played the better game. I don't think it was
Yeah.
like good fortune or some calls or non-calls. I mean, Minnesota played the better game by far, and now they go home. I think Minnesota takes that momentum. I think the Nuggets got to be kind of scratching their heads a little bit, and we talked about it in another segment we did about who's going to help Jokic and Murray, and in that game, who really did? Not really anybody. I mean, Braun had 16, Johnson had 13. That's okay. But Jokic had 15 rebounds, Murray had 7. The rest of the team probably had 8, 10 combined. So I think we talked about it before game two. I'm going to talk about it again. I don't think Denver has any help after those two. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the T Wolves here.
Yeah, you mentioned right. It's really been that second quarter that propelled them to get back in the game and really just give them that confidence to even up this series. Anthony Edwards, again, not a great shooting night for him in game two. He did finish the game with 30 points, 10 of 25 from the floor. Julius Randle was efficient, 7 of 14 from the floor, contributed 24 points in that game. But this is a team that's full of dogs, as they like to call themselves, and that's something that I want to get behind. It doesn't matter, who this team plays. They're going to give their effort for the full 48 minutes. Where there could be times for the Denver Nuggets where they lack some consistency, I think is a better word. I think that kind of showed up in that fourth quarter there. And give Minnesota a lot of credit that they were able to limit the Denver Nuggets to only 21 points in that fourth quarter in game two there. But at least in the first 2 games, Uncle Dave, we've seen higher scoring first halves from both these teams. I don't think that changes here tonight. It was 62-62, I believe, in the game one at the half, and it was 64-64 in game two of this series here. So I'll go right back to seeing points here tonight in the first half, at least between these two teams. The official number right now in the first half, as far as the total goes, Uncle Dave, is sitting at 113 and a half. And we've seen typically lower scoring second halves in the first 2 games here. So I think we continue riding that trend here, 113 and a half on the over. And also do like Jokic rebounds. That's where he's had some success, at least in this series thus far against this team. And you also take a look. The first 2 games for Jokic, 25 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. In the second game, game two, 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists for Nikola Jokic there. So I think it's another big game for him tonight, whether it's rebounding or getting assists here tonight, which trying to see if they have the rebounds and assists, the RA market here. I don't know why they don't have that anymore over on DraftKings there, but
I could speculate. They're losing.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what it is. I'll see if I can find it on FanDuel, but um, at least on DraftKings they don't have it. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. First half over. If you had a gun to my head, betting with Uncle Dave's money, I would go with the Timberwolves at home plus 2.5. And again, the expectation is that Anthony Edwards does fully play here tonight for the Minnesota Timberwolves. You got anything else for Wolves and the Nuggets in Game 3?
No, I mean, I'm looking at. I like the game better than the first half. I mean, the Denver's like minus a half for the first half, minus 2.5 for the game. I do like first halves a lot. We've talked about that in the last week or so.
Mm.
But and it's the same. You mentioned your total of first half over 113. Well, the game total is 234,
Yeah.
233.5. So one of those is very wrong, and I'm inclined to agree with you that it's the first half. So I love your first half bet. And again, if I'm going to take Minnesota, I'll probably take in 2.5 for the game rather than a half for the first half. It just seems a smarter thing to do. But that's those numbers are there for a reason as well. So I honestly, I'm leery of anything. I'm leery of anything in all these games. I mean, I think the numbers are right where they're supposed to be, but it's our job to try to find an edge. And I think the edge may be in player props. And you mentioned a few that I'm totally 100% on board with.
Yeah, again, it gets difficult when you have, these playoff series. We at least in the first after game one or after, game two, we look at the team stats and the box scores and say, okay, well, team A shot X amount of free throws. Does that continue? Right. Or does
Right.
Toronto here tonight? I think for an example, I think there was the post game conference with their head coach of the Toronto Raptors saying that, Brandon Ingram wasn't getting as many fouls calls as he probably should have. And maybe do they get a friendlier whistle here tonight, being at home, being down 2 games to nothing, right? Because obviously, when you have more games being played in the playoffs and the series going longer, that's just more money in the pockets for the networks and the NBA. And that's just my conspiracy theory coming out. I think at least Sleepy would agree with that because he's a conspiracy theory guy there. But maybe bet on Brandon and props here tonight, thinking maybe he does get a friendlier whistle being at home, being down 2 games to nothing there. But all right. So that is the NBA card here for tonight. Uncle Dave, as I mentioned, for the baseball side of things, we do have early starts here today, but we do have some night games, at least three that, if we have anything for, we could quickly do a rundown. Obviously, Yankees and Red Sox in game three of that series. We have Twins and the Mets, and then we have Pirates and the Rangers here starting at 6:10 Eastern start time and beyond there. But do you have anything for those three games that you're looking at here for the baseball side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm done with the Red Sox. Okay, I mean, I'll take the Red Sox team total under. Um, they've never hit Schlitter well, and I don't think they will tonight. I'll like Bubba Chandler. I love that guy. But is DeGrom minus 162 really worth that price? I don't think he is. Total eight, sitting 8.5, 7.5. I would actually take the Pirates on the run line if I had to bet that game. If this gets out and printed and listened to in time, the Brewers and the Tigers are at 1 o'clock Eastern time. That game, if you can get a 7, is going to go over. Hence, I would also take the Tigers team total over, and the Tigers, of course, at Scuba, right, in the first 5 innings minus a half a run. But that's kind of all I got for you. These day games, it's funny. I see some people, even pick sellers, like they fire away on day games in baseball, and they're just so sketchy, right? Because it's either a getaway day or a rest day for a lot of people, and to fire before lineups is really kind of ludicrous. At least I found it to be, and I think most people will over the long run find the same thing. So I do try to stick to night games or games where I at least have the lineup, and a lot of these 2-3 o'clock Eastern time games don't have lineups yet. So I'm not gonna speculate on what we see because those are the games. I remember for years I would take the Tigers and invariably they would rest Miguel Cabrera in his prime. And I'm like, what now? and you say that's only one guy, right? Well, no, it's like three guys because it's the guys on either side of him in the lineup too that benefit from him being in there. So it's not just one guy being out; it's like two and a half that they don't have to pitch around. So I'm not gonna go hog wild on day games in baseball anytime soon.
Yeah, it's also very very tough, like you mentioned, without lineups and knowing who's going to be out there and who's not going to be out there, especially in the early games. And it gets a little difficult to handicap, I'll say the least. But a lot of people just want um, just action, just because it's on TV
Mm-hmm.
and it's during the day to kind of get them through the day there. So again, you guys that have been listening to us, we're not going to force anything, and by the time you guys probably get to this, these early games will already be started in the MLB there. But at least from a fan perspective, that'll keep us um, engaged and entertained throughout the day before we do have the NBA playoffs tonight and the NFL draft. All right, Uncle Dave, before we do get to best bets, just want to remind everybody to get over there to pregame.com. And one of the biggest offers that I've seen since I've been with pregame, and that's getting 25% off right now over at pregame.com on anything. And right now, if you use that promo code PICK25, PICK 25 over there at pregame.com, you get 25% off of anything, including football season all access discounted subscription. So, yes, the football season for college and the NFL is still a little bit ways away, but right now would be the best time to take advantage of this promotion because I'm not sure if 25% will come around very often or again. So this would be a great time to use it and get ahead of the curve, as we say. The early bird gets the worm, or whatever the saying is, if I'm saying that correctly. But do us a favor, help us grow this podcast, help us continue doing this podcast. And we can't do that without your support, not only by listening, but also getting there at pregame.com and using that promo code PICK25. So you can get 25% off of anything, including the football season all access discounted subscriptions over there at pregame.com. All right, last order of business here, Uncle Dave. That is going to be our best bets for the Thursday card. I'll let you lead it off. Where are you taking us?
Well, where do you think I'm taking you?
I would guess it's back to the Mets and the Twins game if I had to be a betting man.
Well, you would be correct. Um, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like the Twins in the first 5 innings. I know that the Mets kind of got off the schneid when they won 3-2. Okay, I believe Lindor went out of the game last night. He might not be in there, but I like Joe Ryan in the first 5 innings. I mean, you take away his bad game against the Royals, which was really bad, and even with that, he gave up 9 hits in 4 innings, and even with that, his WHIP is still .88. Can't be ignored. I was a little surprised to see the Mets had seen him, but they've seen him several times. Like 61 at bats, they have a total of 7 hits, so they had their chance to go ahead and get to him, and they didn't. I don't think just because they won one game, the pressure's off. I look at Christian Scott. He basically missed all of 2025 with an injury. He only pitched, I think, in 3 games in the big leagues last year. Gave up 8 home runs in 47 innings. Now he will strike some people out, but strike people out all you want. If I can get a walk and a home run in the first 5 innings, then the Twins will be ahead. And he looked okay in Syracuse this year. He gave up but he has given up 3 home runs in 13 innings. Now, granted, he struck out 17 in 13 innings, but again, I don't know how ready he is to pitch deep at all. And I love his upside, but maybe not just here. I also now I give you like a bet and a half because it's not widely available. But I also like the first 5 innings under. I don't know that I would call that a best bet. If you can find a 4.5, I would 100% do that. There are some fours out there, but the majority of them are 3.5. So, if you can find a four, I think it's worth a bet. But if I'm making one official bet, I will take the Minnesota Twins in the first 5 innings over the New York Mets.
All right. For my best bet, we mentioned if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Denver and Minnesota, they've been coming out and scoring points in the first half. They've had 60 plus points each in the first two games in the first half there. I don't think that changes here tonight. I think Minnesota comes out firing, being at home. They've been a very, very good home team. And I think the Denver's defense still has some holes in it, dating back to the regular season. And I think the game just slows down for both these teams, especially in the second half, right? Because depending on what number you did get in those first two games, if you did get the closing number at 233 and a half, and you took the over full game, you're probably kicking yourself. And same thing happened in game one as well there. But yeah, I think we continue to see pace in the first half between these two teams. Both benches have guys that can fill up the basket, right? And I think for the Denver Nuggets side of things that they're trying to make sure that either one of Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic is on the floor at all times, but also you have guys that are coming off the bench that can score for them. And same thing for Minnesota. So that's something I'm going to continue to back here. 113 and a half is the number in the first half on the total. I'll take the over as that as my best bet here tonight between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And hopefully we are back tomorrow to talk about a 2-0 situation as our best bets do go. But if not, at minimum, 1-1 for our best bets here. So a lot of things happening tonight in the sporting world. Of good, like I mentioned, we have the NFL draft and NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, MLB going on as well. But Uncle Dave, anything else for our listeners before we get our Thursdays rolling?
Yeah, I was just thinking of the draft tonight, right? Like all these teams that draft in the top, whatever. I mean, after the Raiders take Mendoza, their fans are gonna go like, yeah, well, yeah, when they announce a name, right? Like that one guy that they probably never heard of before 3 weeks ago is going to change the fortune of the franchise. Or they're all going to be talking about, oh, we're going to get this dynamic wide receiver, and he's going to be the next Jerry Rice, and they draft an offensive tackle. Oh, so that's my entertainment for tonight.
It's funny because what you mentioned is like a lot of these fans that are there at the draft you mentioned, right? They don't even know who
Right, right,
these guys are coming out of college, unless you're a diehard college fan
right.
and you follow like yourself, right? It just when you just mentioned that, I went back to when Kristaps Porzingis got drafted by the Knicks, and there was a fan that made a video after they drafted Kristaps Porzingis, and the guy was like, "Who the hell is this guy Tinkus Pinkus that we just drafted? We could have had anybody else, and we drafted this Tinkus Pinkus." And it was funny because they asked Porzingis about it. I think sometime after that video had transpired, and I thought that was absolutely hilarious. As a draft related story, and I wonder how many people are going to be watching the movie Draft Day here tonight, Uncle Day, with Kevin Costner in it, and thinking how realistic things like that happen in the NFL. But I digress. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like the Browns are drafting, I believe, sixth, right?
Yeah.
Well, most places have them taking an offensive tackle,
Right.
quite probably Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. I do know him because I do live in the SEC, but then again, I do this all day, every day. But can you just see the Browns fans when they draft? I mean, they've drafted, right, like Sanders and all
Yeah.
these other elite guys. Miles Garrett, everybody knew. It's like, yeah, and they draft Monroe Freeling. Can you see him going, yes, we have just won the NFC North?
Well, this is something that their team that they definitely need. But 6-1 right now for Freeling to be a top 10 pick. So if you want to get down on that, over on DraftKings, that may be worth a little fun bet if you want to have some fun here tonight. With him going number 6
Yeah,
overall
I
to
think I think he'll be the first offensive lineman off the board. Um, Not many other teams need, or everybody needs offensive linemen, but I don't think anybody else will take one until maybe you get to the Giants at 10. But yeah, I would make that bet.
this team over here certainly does, Uncle Dave. This team over here, right behind me. This Texans team needs all the offensive linemen that they can get.
Well, yeah. So when you trade up and take Monroe Freeling,
Yeah,
you'll be
so
happy.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do trade up here tonight, do the Texans here. But they're not a stranger to trading up, at least under Nick Cassiro as the GM of the Texans. But hopefully it's a fun night as far as the NFL draft does go. And hopefully, if you are listening to this and whichever team you root for gets the guy that improves your team. I'll say that much. Maybe not the big sexy pick there, but should be fun, as I mentioned. All right. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week for this podcast. So look out for us then. Till then, good luck with your bets here tonight, and we'll talk to you guys down the road.